Don't talk, he whispers, palm over her mouth, eyes steady. He stands close enough that she can see the cracks in his knuckles and the grime under each nail. His other hand gestures down, asking her to stay low. She stiffens, reflex running faster than reason. The badge is clipped inside her blazer, hidden, but her training wants control. His grip isn't hard, just firm enough to keep her still. He nods toward the glass doors. Two men in hoodies enter, pacing wide, not together, not apart. One surveys the teller counters. The other scans the ceiling like he rehearsed this room. The first man pops a duffel on the floor. The click echoes. Don't talk, he repeats, releasing her mouth. He slides between her and the aisle with a subtle step. His jacket smells like rain and smoke. He tips his chin at the maintenance closet behind a pillar. She tracks exits, sight lines, the guard's position. The guard's chair is empty. The guard's hat sits on the desk, too neat, too placed. The homeless man taps the pillar twice, like a code she doesn't know. The taller robber raises a small radio and murmurs. The lobby conversations die, replaced by the quiet scrape of soles shifting. A teller reaches for a silent alarm, hesitates. The shorter robber watches her reflection in the glass. Back room first, the taller one says. He smiles at a customer and doesn't show teeth. A third figure appears near the vestibule, holding the guard's hat. Wrong hands, right size. Nobody claps. Everyone understands. She feels the man's sleeve brush her arm. You can breathe, he whispers. But don't talk yet. He points at the floor vents, then the roof. Airflow, not decoration. Someone upstairs is watching the lobby. Her plan forms in segments: confirm weapons, secure civilians, identify command. She gives the smallest nod. He sees it and relaxes half an inch. He has been inside chaos before and learned to read tiny signals. He angles his body to block her view. They'll look for heroes, he says quietly. Don't look like one. Not yet. She lowers her gaze, and the room sharpens into a grid she knows how to navigate. Don't talk, he says again. Because the groomed man at counter 2 just lifted his sleeve to reveal a patchy tattoo that doesn't match the ID he used last week. Patterns matter. I has watched doors for years. She sets her purse on the chair to her left, a marker for later. Her eyes count the customers. Mother with stroller, man in tie, teen at ATM, older couple by brochures. The lobby becomes a checklist. The tall robber flips a laminated closed technical issue sign onto the rope stanchion. He charms it with a shrug.
Now the shorter one drops the duffel against the baseboard near the vault corridor.
The zipper stays shut. His phone's on the counter. Tall man calls. His voice is casual, like a teacher ending lunch. Nobody gets hurt. We're in and out. He doesn't wave a gun. That doesn't mean he doesn't have one. The homeless man moves first, not toward the robbers, but to step sideways to block the stroller's path. Don't talk, he tells the mother, then points to the family restroom. She understands the gift and rolls away. A teller coughs to hide the click of a drawer. The shorter robber notices and smiles without warmth. He taps the glass with a knuckle. Let me help you find things, he says. The drawer stays closed. She edges her heel against the base of a chair, checking for weight, checking stability. The man watches her, then nods at the vestibule camera. It's a decoy, he murmurs. Real eyes are in the smoke detector. Tall man pats the duffel like a dog. We're here for deposit pickups. Manager, let's chat. The manager doesn't move. Shorter robber glances at the maintenance closet. The handle is wired with a short strip of tape. Don't talk, the man repeats softly, 'cause two more shadows just pressed against the frosted glass of the upstairs conference room. He smells aerosol and oil fresh, like someone recently set a device. He leans closer. There's a second plan, he tells her. They want you to try something. Don't. She sets her jaw and closes her fingers around nothing. She has tried before. This time, she will wait for the right second. Don't talk, he says, then points at the floor vent again. Warm air rises. Her eyes follow the stream and find a fiber line along the ceiling trim, taped in a hurry. Temporary camera, temporary control. The tall robber ushers 3 customers to the waiting area. Sit tight, he says, like a flight attendant. The shorter one scoops phones into a basket, screen side down. checks cases for hidden badges. He's done homework. She slips a glance at the homeless man's face. There's a thin scar near his ear, a jagged one at the jaw. Not a fighter's pride, more a fall nobody caught. He senses her look and shrugs. Back door's chained, he mutters. I tried it earlier. Fire code violation if you're taking notes. He speaks in the dry rhythm of someone who complains to managers and gets nothing. Useful details? No flourish. The duffel shifts when the tall man nudges it. Inside is probably a drill, maybe a compact ram, definitely zip ties. His partner keeps scanning the mezzanine. They know about police response times within this district. She notices a tiny red smear on the shorter robber's cuff. Grease, not blood. Tools, not gore. A job meant to be quick, not loud. That means their pressure point is timing, not force. Timing can be cut. Don't talk, the man repeats, then adds, when the lights go, they'll move the manager. That's your window. His guess is specific. It feels like experience. He points at the hallway where the breaker room sits. The manager finally stands, hands up, composure brittle. Tall man relaxes his shoulders like they're friendly. Perfect, he says. He gestures toward the corridor. The shorter robber repositions by the lobby door. He watches reflections. She breathes once and measures the distance from her seat to the corridor corner. 9 steps, if nobody blocks. 7 if she cuts hard around the column. The homeless man shifts, ready to trip someone without drama. Don't talk, he says, then almost smiles. But when you move, make it sound like you're scared, not brave. She nods. The plan has edges now. The first piece is to survive the cut to black. Don't talk, he says, as the tall robber reaches for the hallway light panel. The shorter one keeps crowd control casual. The lobby humdrops, as if the room knows what's next. People freeze in polite fear. The breaker flips. The rigs upstairs click. Light goes soft, not gone. Emergency bulbs hold a dim orange. The temporary camera's indicator winks. The tall robber guides the manager toward the vault corridor, pace unhurried. She stands slowly, hands visible, gaze down. A chair leg scrapes. The shorter robber turns, annoyed, not alarmed. He likes control.
Hey.
The homeless man hunches, smaller, as if intimidated, then angles himself near the robber's blind spot. The mother with the stroller is gone. The restroom door is quietly shut. The older couple studies their shoes. The teen at the ATM keeps hands flat on the machine, like a statue. Order holds by thread. Don't talk, he says, but he nods toward the corridor. Now she steps, feigning wobble. I'm dizzy, she says, simple and believable. The tall robber glances, decides she's not a problem, keeps the manager moving. The homeless man stumbles and bumps the shorter robber's elbow. It looks clumsy, almost apologetic. The robber snaps. Watch it, and shifts his stance. For an instant, his view of the corridor is blocked. The window opens. She slides to the corner, palm to the wall, and catches the manager's eye. One blink, two, he swallows and trips on purpose, pitching forward. The tall robber grabs him and loses 1 step of control. The homeless man kicks the duffel lightly with his heel. The zipper teeth misalign just enough to snag. When the tall robber yanks it up, it won't open clean. He swears and drops his focus for a breath. She leans in to the manager. Fire code, she says, low. Back door's chained. We need tools. He nods like he understands a longer sentence. The tall robber jerks his chin. Move, he growls. Time resumes. Don't talk. The man whispers behind her, but his eyes are saying, good, keep going. She files the path in her head. Next step. Proof of weapon, camera blind spots, and who upstairs is feeding them angles. Don't talk, he says, as security sirens wail faintly outside, then cut. That means a perimeter, not a rush. Other officers are staging, waiting for eyes inside. They don't know who is who. Misreads are dangerous. The tall robber shoves the manager toward the vault keypad. Open stage 1, he says. We're not idiots. 2-person rule, we know. He's done research, expects a delay and plans to ride it by talking. The shorter robber drifts toward the vestibule, peering through tinted glass. Doesn't see the mother's stroller in the hall? Good. He rubs his cuff. He's impatient. Patience breaks patterns and triggers mistakes. The homeless man slides closer to her again. They're watching from upstairs, he says. It's not robbers. Extra eyes. Maybe spotters. Maybe someone's scared. He points at the smoke detector. That one's real, not their camera. She weighs risks. If she signals police now, they'll tag the wrong suspect. She needs a clean lane to identify herself without creating a hostage moment. Her badge is hidden. Her voice is the safer credential later. The tall robber paces in front of the keypad. Tick-tock, he says. The manager enters digits, pauses, then shakes his head. Time delay, he whispers. The robber sighs like a bored customer waiting for coffee. Don't talk, the man says, softer. When the first lock cycles, there'll be a chime. Use that sound. It will cover your move. He taps his wrists like clock hands. She stores it. Sound masks action. The shorter robber eyes the homeless man. You, he says, sit by the door. The man obeys, slow, harmless. He sits where his heel can reach the duffel again. He scratches his beard and looks tired. A muted chime pings from the vault hall. Air changes. The tall robber smiles at the manager like they share an inside joke. The moment stretches, her windows coming into focus with the second tone. She angles her body and tests a step. The man's eyes flick to the mezzanine. Two shapes move. He shakes his head. Not yet. She freezes. The second chime pings, and the room holds its breath. Don't talk, he says, just as the mezzanine door cracks and a phone camera peeks out. Not a robber, someone hiding, streaming, or recording for fear. That feed could get her shot if officers mistake him for a threat. She moves one step into the corridor and catches the lens with a flat palm, universal signal for stop. The phone jerks back. The door clicks shut. A tiny win. The window widens enough to plan the next reach. The tall robber checks his radio. 2 minutes, a voice says. Outside coordination. Listening for units. He hears none. That means either the signal is damped or the police are patient today. The homeless man clears his throat. Bathroom, he asks. The shorter robber, voice dry. The robber waves carelessly. The man stands and shuffles toward the hallway. Eyes on the floor, shoulders rounded. He passes her, whispers, left door. She slips into the left maintenance closet as he lets the bathroom door creak. Inside, coils of cable, a breaker map, and a janitor cart weight. She scans labels and finds the mezzanine camera relay taped to a pipe. Don't talk, he murmurs through the thin wall. 3 screws. She checks the cart. There's a flathead taped under the handle. Someone's emergency tool habit becomes her asset. She turns each screw half a rotation, slow, quiet. The chime sounds again. The vault delay is proceeding. The tall robber jokes about fee waivers. The manager answers with silence. The shorter robber grows restless and taps the duffel with the toe of his shoe. She loosens the relay bracket and angles it away from the wall. The indicator flickers. The mezzanine feed will stutter now, enough to confuse any outside viewer about who is grabbing whom in the lobby. The homeless man knocks twice on the bathroom door and flushes. He returns to his seat by the entry, harmless again. He meets her eyes for a second. Ready? He's asking. Not brave smart? She breathes, steps out of the closet, and blends back into the corridor shadow. Don't talk, he says, without sound, only lips. The next move belongs to the lock, the chime, and her timing. Don't talk, he says, then glances at the street through the tinted glass. Blue bars of light pulse and fade. The perimeter is tight. Other officers are watching for a suspect matching his clothes, not the robber's posture. She angles her badge under the edge of her blazer, ready to flash at a single target while keeping the larger crowd calm. Any broad declaration will trigger chaos. Control is small and precise, one person at a time. The tall robber hears the final chime and straightens. There we go, he says, stepping with the manager toward the inner door. The shorter robber stretches his neck and adjusts his cuff. He scratches where the grease smeared. The homeless man leans a shoulder into the entry frame and shifts his heel. The duffel zipper snags again. The shorter robber curses and bends to fix it. The bend exposes his waistband. No firearm, knife clipped. She moves. 3 steps, then 4, voice low to the manager. When I say down, drop. He nods with a stiff jerk. She points 2 fingers toward the keypad, asking for a stall. He fumbles a digit on purpose. Don't talk, the man says, but he coughs once, loud. The sound draws the shorter robber's eyes away from her. He glares at the cough like a personal insult. His focus shifts off the corridor. She flashes the edge of her badge to the manager only. "Police," she breathes. "Wait for my count." The tall robber doesn't catch it. He's busy coaching patience to a lock that doesn't care. The vestibule door opens half an inch and closes again. Outside, someone tested it. Inside, nobody moves. The room hangs on invisible wire. The homeless man rubs his face and looks bored. It helps. 2 steps back, she tells the manager, barely above air. He shuffles. The tall robber steps with him, adjusting. The gap between their bodies grows just enough to matter when force arrives. "Don't talk," the man repeats. "Last time before impact." She nods, sets her feet, and counts down in her head for a move that looks like fear, but lands like control. 3, 2, 1. "Don't talk," he says. As the inner lock thunks, and the tall robber relaxes for half a second, shoulders dropping. "That's her trigger," she yells down. The manager drops like a sack, hands over head, body a shield. She hits the tall robber's wrist with an open palm, driving it into the door jamb. The radio flies. Her knee blocks his hip. She doesn't reach for a gun. She needs compliance, not holes. Speed and direction matter more. The shorter robber lunges, then stops when the homeless man trips him with a lazy foothook. It looks accidental, like a clumsy stumble. The robber smashes a shin on the duffel and swears. He grabs the knife. "Don't," the man says flatly. He holds up both hands and steps between the robber and the nearest citizen. No hero pose, just a body in the way. The robber hesitates, knife low, unsure who to threaten first. She twists the tall robber's arm and pins him to the jamb. Hands, she orders. He complies when his nose meets wood. The manager crawls backward, shaking, then presses the emergency pedal under the counter. Silent alarm already tripped. The shorter robber darts toward the lobby. The homeless man blocks again, this time with a chair leg held sideways like a gate. The robber slashes once and misses. The blade kisses air and finds nothing else. "Police," she says loud enough for the room, but not a scream. Stay seated, hands visible. Civilians freeze, grateful for instruction. The older couple nods. The teen swallows. The tellers hold still like statues that breathe. The vestibule door jolts as officers outside test again. Inside units identify. A muffled voice calls. She can't broadcast yet without exposing her position. She needs the robber secured and the scene stable first. The tall robber whimpers. The shorter one calculates. He looks at the window, the knife, the distance. He doesn't see a clean lane. Sees a homeless man holding a chair leg like it belongs there. "Don't talk," the man tells the robber this time. "Walk." He points to the floor, then the chair. The robber, surprised by the authority, sits. It's the safest choice he'll make today, the room exhales. "Don't talk," he tells her softly, because footsteps drum on the sidewalk, and this is the second most dangerous moment right after the grab, just before the uniforms flood. Misreads happen here often, and he looks like a suspect. She nods and raises one hand high, palm open toward the vestibule glass, badge visible in the other. "Officer inside," she calls, even controlled. 2 suspects detained, civilians seated, 1 male assisting. The last line matters. The vestibule door opens. 2 officers enter, low and wide weapons indexed. They scan, take in positions, process the chair, the knife on the floor, the tall robber pinned, the manager shaking but upright.
Ow.
No shots. "Hands on your head." An officer orders the homeless man. He obeys instantly, eyes on the floor, posture non-threatening. She steps between him and their aim by half a degree, enough to read his cover without drama. He assisted, she states. "No weapon. Detain, don't escalate." The officer nods, cuffs him anyway. Protocol tight, but not cruel. He doesn't argue. He knows this part. He knows many things about being mistaken. Medics slip past with a small kit for the manager. The shorter robber glares at the floor. Tall one stares at the vault door like it betrayed him. Outside, radios chatter, perimeter shifts, traffic stops. A sergeant steps in and meets her eyes. "Status?" She gives a quick rundown. Entry method, delay, coordination, mezzanine recorder, improvised interference. She credits the mail by door for timing cues and crowd protection. The sergeant studies the homeless man. Name, he shrugs. Doesn't matter today, she answers for him. Witness and helper. The sergeant nods once. The cuffs loosen to front. It's not freedom, but it's not a mistake. The mezzanine door opens. A bank employee emerges. Hands up, phone away. She's pale, shaky, and apologizing. I thought filming would help, she says. I'm sorry. The sergeant waves her to a chair. Don't talk, he murmurs to the employee kindly. Sit, breathe. Then he looks at the officer he helped. She meets his eyes. Thank you, she says. Simple, direct, and better than applause. Don't talk, he says with a tired half smile as they lead him to a bench near the entrance for statements. He knows the drill. Questions, forms, maybe a pat down, then a long walk back to nowhere. She sits opposite him, not above him. Need your account, she says. Start with what you noticed, not what you think. He nods, tells it straight. Doors, guard hat, taped handle, fresh aerosol smell. Facts, he explains the floor vents and airflow, how the upstairs would carry heat if someone lingered. He points out the decoy camera and the real smoke detector. He mentions the taped relay in the closet like noting weather. She writes, steady. Why help me? She asks. He shrugs. You were about to speak at the wrong time. Talking gets people hurt. Silence is useful until it isn't. It's not a motto. It's a habit that kept him alive. The sergeant returns with a quick decision. He walks, she says. We'll need him to sign, then he's clear. The homeless man nods. He doesn't celebrate. Freedom is routine when it's only from one room to the next. A teller brings a paper cup of water and sets it near his hand. He hesitates, then drinks. He doesn't look for cameras. He knows someone always is. Today at least, the lens won't get him wrong. Outside, rain starts light against the awning. The officers bag the duffel, tag the knife, photograph the hallway. The manager thanks her 3 times without full sentences. Relief makes language break into pieces. She stands. There's a shelter on 9th, she says carefully. Hot food at 5. He shakes his head once. I'll find it. He means he'll find the next door and the next. He stands, too. You did good, he says. You didn't rush the scene. She almost smiles. You either. For a moment, the job and the street agree on one thing. Timing is everything. Don't talk, he adds, almost joking now, nodding at the reporters outside. She snorts. Not to them. Then she steps into the rain, and he follows, both leaving the bank quieter than they found it. Rain pushed the reporters back, but flashes still hit the glass. She gave a short statement, careful with words. Inside, he waited on the bench, cuffs moved to front. An officer read the release conditions. He listened, nodded once, kept his shoulders low. The sergeant repeated he was a witness, not a suspect. He didn't object or celebrate. Paperwork would follow, but he would not be held. She finished and came over. She had taken off her blazer vest visible. No ceremony, just practical steps. His eyes noted. Her hands were steady when adrenaline usually shakes. I need a phone number, she said. He almost laughed, then stopped. She saw it and changed approach. A place you check, shelter, clinic, a friend who hears news. He named the soup kitchen on 9th and spelled the coordinator's name twice. She wrote it in block letters, leaving no room for confusion. The manager brought a blanket meant for fainting customers. He offered it without looking down on him. The man took it. Warmth beats pride in the rain. Someone closed the door to keep the wind out. Tex photographed the relay she had loosened. One looked at him like he didn't belong near equipment. She ignored it. He saw the tape, she said. That matters. Paramedics checked a teller with a panic shake. The shorter robber sat cuffed near the door, staring at tile. The taller one complained until a medic mentioned choices. She set a follow-up for the afternoon. Across from the kitchen, she said. He nodded. He asked for directions only. The plan was simple. Talk, verify, then clear misunderstandings. He stood, blanket on his shoulders, and paused. You did good, he said. You too, she answered. Respect traded hands without cost. He left the bank with 2 officers beside him, not behind. It looked like an escort, not an arrest. Reporters yelled about accomplices. He kept his head down. At the curb, a patrol SUV blocked a lane. Sergeant asked him to sit on the bumper while they verified his role. He agreed. Arguing never sped anything up. She briefed the perimeter with short sentences and pointed once at him. Assisted crowd control. No weapon. Time diversion. Help block a knife. The words landed better than a speech. A detective joined with a tablet. He scrolled through quick clips from cameras. He almost opened a wedding feed by mistake. Someone muted it. The joke died before it started. The detective turned serious, opened the bank feed, and watched the chair trip. He looked at the sergeant and nodded. He helped. Cuff front, then release, he said. He offered a ride to the station for a warmer interview room. The man declined. If I go in, it takes all day, he said. The detective understood. She returned with 2 coffees, handed him one, and checked in. You good till 2? He nodded. I'll be at 9th. They set time and place again. A passing officer asked if he was the lookout. He didn't answer. The sergeant answered for him. He's the reason nobody bled, she said. The officer grunted and moved cones for traffic. An elderly customer approached to thank him. He stepped back, unsure how to accept it. She patted his arm anyway and told the officers he was brave. He looked away. Rain eased. The bank reopened to a strange normal after alarms. He pulled the blanket tight and started walking. No escort now, just pavement and a plan to meet later. He reached the soup kitchen early and waited under the awning. Volunteers carried boxes through a side door. He knew faces, but not names. Routine felt safer than questions. He wiped his hands on the blanket and checked the street. No media. A bus exhaled at the corner and pulled away. He counted windows and exits, a habit he couldn't stop. She arrived on time in plain clothes with a badge on a chain. No sirens. She waved to the coordinator by name, which raised credibility faster than any business card. They took a back table near a bulletin board. She set a small recorder on the surface and asked permission. He nodded. Just talk how you notice things, she said. We'll keep it simple. He explained how the guard's hat looked staged and why taped handles matter. He described aerosol smell and how floor vents tell stories when you watch air, not people. She asked about his background. He gave the short version. Day labor, when available, odd jobs at a garage, a ruined bank account, and a line he won't cross again. A volunteer slid 2 bowls onto the table. He waited for her to take the first spoon before starting. Discipline makes meals last when days run long. Reviewed times and distances. She mapped his cues to her actions and marked errors they avoided. It looked deliberate on paper, built minute by minute in the lobby. Midway through, a patrol officer walked in and froze. He radioed. She lifted the badge. Interview, she said. He nodded, backed out, and let the door swing. She outlined next steps. Written statement. Contact if testimony was needed, and where to find her. He agreed. He didn't ask what he would get. He wanted distance. After the interview, they stepped outside. A squad car rolled up. Lights off. An officer jumped out, saw the blanket, and read it wrong. Hands, shouted, closing distance. The man didn't argue. He raised his hands and stared at a fixed point on the wall. She moved between them. He's a witness, she said. Tone beat volume. The officer hesitated, thumb near his holster. The pause ran too long. The sergeant from the bank turned the corner and cut it short. A holster, she ordered. The thumb moved away. He apologized, still wired from the call. She kept it professional and used the moment to reset expectations. Ash, uniforms will be briefed, she said. We won't repeat this. The man lowered his hands. He didn't look angry, just tired. She checked his wrists and asked if he needed medical. He said no and rubbed his jaw like waking up. The sergeant pulled the younger officer aside for a short correction. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. Identify first. Escalate never. The sidewalk felt less sharp afterward. They crossed to the curb. City worker fixed a loose sign with 2 turns of a wrench. The small sound signaled the tension had passed. She confirmed the afternoon plan and added a safety note. If someone follows you, go inside the shelter or clinic, she said. Stay in sightlines. I'll get there. He nodded. Yes, do they have partners? She said maybe. Jobs like this use drivers and lookouts. Stay away from the bank for a few days, she added. He already intended to. He pulled the blanket tight and headed toward Ninth. She watched him go, then turned back to the hurried officer. Training would cover the rest. Today had almost bent wrong. He cut through an alley toward Ninth and saw a compact idling without a front plate. The driver watched mirrors too much. He changed direction. He paused by a storefront and used the reflection to watch the car. It rolled to the corner and waited. He stepped into a hardware store and pretended to browse gloves. He asked the clerk for the restroom and took a back exit into a service lane. The car couldn't follow there. He walked 3 blocks along a bus route near People. At the soup kitchen, he told the coordinator he might have trouble behind him. She nodded like this wasn't new and pointed to a side office with a landline and a solid door. He called the number on the officer's card. She answered on the second ring. Might be a tail, he said. Stay inside. 2 minutes, she said. He closed the door. He counted to 100 and listened. The kitchen moved, metal on metal, voices low. The rhythm lowered the urge to step outside. He waited for footsteps he could trust. She arrived and spoke to the coordinator. They checked the alley camera. Compact circled once and parked out of frame, enough to justify a quick sweep. They stepped outside together. She walked past the car, photographed the inspection sticker, and sent the location to dispatch. The driver looked bored until he saw her badge. He started the engine. She tapped the hood and pointed to the curb. 2 patrol units turned the corner slow. The driver settled. Paperwork would meet him before charges. Back inside, she told him to shift locations for the evening. Shelter on 12th is quieter, she said. I'll put a note on your file, he agreed. Distance beat, thanks. At the precinct, she logged a commendation with his name listed as identifier unknown, linked to the incident number. Not a medal, but it anchored the story in the right place. She added a line asking that future contacts treat him as a witness unless facts changed. The sergeant signed it. Small paperwork prevents big mistakes when memory fades. He spent the evening at the 12th Street shelter. The intake worker recognized his face from the news crawl and kept questions short. He appreciated that more than food. Showered, changed into donated clothes, and folded the blanket at the foot of his bunk. The room smelled like detergent and floor cleaner, better than rain and diesel. Before lights out, a volunteer handed him a breakfast voucher and a card from the officer. It listed a follow-up time and thanks that didn't oversell it. He turned the card over and saw resources for ID recovery and a clinic that helped with document fees. He kept it flat so the corners wouldn't curl in his pocket. He thought about calling an old coworker, then put the idea away. Old contacts can help and harm in equal measure. Tonight he wanted sleep more than history. At roll call, she briefed the team on the mezzanine relay, the fake camera, and the timing cues. She kept his name out of it and emphasized the method instead of the man. A younger officer asked why she trusted a stranger. I didn't, she said. I trusted patterns and verified. He matched the pattern that kept people safe. Then they moved on. Lights went out at the shelter. He listened to the building settle and the city hum. For the first time in a while, tomorrow had an agenda. Not just weather. Morning brought calls to her desk from the bank's security team. Overnight review found a third person on the mezzanine who slipped out during the rush. They wanted help matching a face. She checked relay photos and camera lists. The mezzanine feed dropped when she loosened the bracket, which blurred the exit angle. It helped the lobby but cost a clean upstairs image. She called him at the kitchen and asked if he remembered anything useful. He said yes. A lanyard with a faded logo and a limp on the right foot. Security sent a still from an exterior camera. He pointed to the shoe tread and the worn outer edge. Same guy as yesterday's driver, he said. They flagged the plate from the inspection sticker and matched it to a rental. Paperwork used a prepaid card and a fake number, but the clerk remembered a jacket with that logo. Detectives checked surveillance near the rental office and found the same limp and lanyard on a coffee run. Not proof, but it drew a line across 3 places and narrowed the search. She briefed the team and warned against assumptions. Pattern is not identity, she said. The sergeant split tasks: pick-up, interview, and bank follow-up. They invited him to sign a photo log as a civilian witness. He did it slowly, letter by letter, careful not to pretend certainty. He pointed only when sure. By noon, Patrol stopped the rental 2 districts away. Inside were tools, a second phone, and a burner with the bank's address in recent maps. The driver had the same limp. She updated the case file and included his contribution without drama. Credit mattered, but accuracy mattered more. The bank called to say thanks. He asked him to call the kitchen. News crawls picked up the arrest and flattened the story into easy lines. The robbery had accomplices. The customer helped. Police responded, no injuries. Quieter details didn't fit headlines. She filed a final supplemental report. She attached stills of the taped relay, notes on timing, and contact entries for witnesses. It read like a checklist, which is how it happened. He showed up at the kitchen at noon, ate slowly, and waited near the bulletin board. Cleaner clothes changed how people looked at him, though his facts didn't. She arrived with a plain jacket and a paper bag. Property found near the scene, she said. A joke, but also practical for cold days. He accepted it with a nod. They sat on the steps. She asked if he wanted his name in the commendation once his ID was sorted. He said no. He didn't want interviews, charity pages, or surprise relatives. She asked what he did want. He said fewer wrong guesses when someone sees me. Not money, just a wish to be read correctly once in a while. A passerby snapped a photo. She ignored it. He stiffened, then let it go. It will fold into a feed and vanish, she said. He had seen that cycle. The coordinator thanked him for warning about the car. She offered socks and a locker for the jacket. He took the socks and passed on the locker, not ready to plant roots. Before leaving, she gave him a copy of the release form marking him as a witness. It might help at the next stop, where questions came first. He shook her hand. You didn't talk when it would have made things worse, he said. She answered, you either. They left carrying lighter versions of the same day. 2 days later, he helped stack chairs after lunch at the kitchen. Coordinator noticed he fixed wobbly legs without being asked. She handed him a small tool roll to keep. He tightened hinges on the back door and quieted a squeak in storage. People noticed when doors stopped complaining. The attention felt different from pity. It felt earned. She stopped by after shift in plain clothes. No badge this time. She brought a brochure for ID recovery and a checklist she had typed. The list broke a big job into steps. They reviewed the first 3 items. Clinic appointment, affidavit for a lost card, and a letter from the shelter confirming residence. He had done none yet, but agreed to try. Volunteer asked for a photo. He said no. She reminded them the kitchen kept a no-photo policy inside. The volunteer apologized and handed him extra napkins instead. They sat by the exit where air moved. She asked if he had heard anything about the robbers' circle. He shook his head. He had kept distance like she requested. Distance was working. Dispatch called with an update. The rental driver flipped, trading names for a lighter charge. Case would likely end without a trial. Good outcomes rarely needed a courtroom. She asked if he wanted his blanket back from property. Said yes. It wasn't sentimental, it was useful. She wrote the property number and would run it through tomorrow. He asked about her. The bank put a letter in her file and the sergeant wrote a note. Nothing flashy. Work would look the same tomorrow. Before she left, she tapped the checklist. Do the first box, she said. Then text the number at the bottom from the clinic desk. He nodded. 1 box beats none. The next morning, he went to the clinic and took a number. The waiting room was quiet. He filled the form slowly, asked for help on 2 lines, and kept answers short. He handed the affidavit to the clerk and sat down. The chair was plastic and wobbled, but it held. He pressed the checklist under his thumb and felt the box waiting. When his turn came, the clerk stamped the paper and gave him a copy. Keep this flat, she said. He nodded and let them take a photo for records. He texted the number on the card from the lobby. First box done, he wrote. She replied 1 word. Good. A minute later, property at 3. Meet me out front. He arrived early and watched people move through the precinct doors. When she stepped out, she carried a paper bag with his blanket and a receipt. She handed both over. You don't owe me, he said. She answered, I know. They stood a second without filling the space. Cars passed. Siren faded far enough to ignore. She asked if he wanted a ride. He said he'd walk. He had a route that avoided corners where trouble idled. He named a few landmarks he trusted. Before he left, she said there would be a brief commendation in the weekly bulletin. No names, just a line about a civilian who helped. He shrugged. Fine. At the corner, he looked back. She lifted a hand. He lifted his blanket under the other arm. To others it looked ordinary. It was not ordinary to them. As he turned onto the main street, a man at the bus stop started to thank him for the bank. He lifted his palm once. "Don't talk," he said, and kept walking.